The Rivian R2 is one of the most exciting new electric vehicles to hit the market in 2026. Customer deliveries have just begun a couple of weeks ago, and there's only a few hundred of them in customers' hands to date. Luckily, a friend of mine, Brian Yoon, who lives in Colorado Springs, Colorado, was one of those lucky first recipients. And Brian invited me to come out and take his beautiful Catalina Cove R2 Launch Edition on range and charge testing. Now, I've already done some charge testing. That video is going to come out probably in a couple of days. But now it's time to do my 70-mile-an-hour highway range test with the R2. Now, the thing is, I'm here in Colorado Springs. I don't know the area well, and it's also very hard to get a flat route in Colorado. There's a lot of mountains out here, not quite the New Jersey Turnpike where I'm used to doing my range tests. But I think I found a route that's going to work. We'll get into that a little bit later when I'm in the vehicle. But for now, I am charging the vehicle up to 100%. I'm going to hop out on Route 25 South and see just how far the Rivian R2 will go from 100% charged down to zero at a constant 70 miles an hour. Let's get into it. All right, I'm in the R2 now, and I'm at 99% state of charge. The vehicle's telling me it's got 1 minute left of charging, so very soon we're gonna be heading out onto the highway to start this range test. But I thought we'd go over a few things here while I was waiting. Number one, I'm doing this in the middle of the night because I'm not sure of the traffic in the roads out here. As I mentioned in my intro, I'm not familiar with the roads in Colorado Springs, but I did some research and it appears as though I should be okay heading south on 25. I'm probably going to turn around in Trinidad, which is about 135-ish miles, head back up, and then finish the end in small loops. I may have some issues with rush hour morning traffic at the end of this. I'm hoping that isn't the case, but this is when I was able to do it. And another thing I had to worry about was elevation. It's not easy to get a relatively flat, long-distance highway out here in this part of Colorado, maybe in all of Colorado for that matter. I'm not too familiar with the state. But 25 south, I'm going to probably have about a 1,500-foot elevation change, which is not ideal for range tests. When I do my range test on the New Jersey Turnpike, during the entire range test, the elevation of the road changes less than 300 feet. So we'll have to take that into consideration. Early on in the range test, I'm going to be going downhill. I'm going to be losing elevation. So my consumption rate should be really good for the first 50 or 60 miles, but then it's going to take a hit as I have to climb back up. Then when I turn around, the opposite's going to happen. I'm going to be going down for a while and then climbing up, getting back to where we are here. I hope to finish in the same spot, this Walmart charging station here in Colorado Springs. That's the goal, is to finish and end here. I think especially with the fact that the elevation changes so much, I think that's really important that I finish and start the same location. Okay, so what else? I reset the trip. We're going in the most efficient driving mode. I always put the vehicles in the most efficient driving mode. With Rivians, that's conserved driving mode. And the R2 also has driving style when it's in Autonomy Plus. There's mild, medium, and spicy. I'm going to put that in mild so we're not driving aggressively on the road. I will be using Autonomy Plus for most of the trip. I really plan on having it assist me on this. I've been probably up 22, 23 hours at this point, so I could use a little help with the driver assistance, and that's definitely helpful when the vehicle can take over some of your duties. Of course, I have to stay alert. I'm fine. I've pumped myself up with caffeine, so I think I'm going to be good for this. What else have we done? I took into consideration wind. I just looked at my wind apps. We're only at about 3 miles an hour, and it's going to be to our back when we start. I'll monitor that during the range test. I set the tires to the proper tire pressure. Actually, Brian had it set up for me, so we're at 38 PSI all the way around. This vehicle doesn't have the all-season tires. Brian got it with the 20-inch all-terrain wheels and tires, and those come with the BF Goodrich tires that are 20-inch, and they're 255/60 R20s. They have a much more aggressive tread. The EPA range rating for this vehicle is only 307 miles, whereas with the same vehicle, if you put the all-terrain tires on it, it's 330 miles. I'm going to go over all of the different EPA ratings, or the Rivian's estimated ratings, in a second. But I do want to point that out. We have the all-terrain tires on here, so we don't expect as good a result as you would get with the all-season tires on it. I already tested the speedometer at 70 miles an hour. The vehicle's reading 72 miles an hour. When the speedometer reads 70 miles an hour, we're actually going 68. I have a couple of GPS apps that I test the speed to, and that's normal. Most of the cars we range test have a slightly fast speedometer, and that's by design. Actually, the automakers get fined if their speedometers read slow, because then you'd be speeding and you wouldn't know it. Your speedometer would say you weren't. So they err on the side of caution, and they make the speedometers run a little fast, like a mile an hour too fast once you get up over 60 or 70 miles an hour. So that's not anything that's a problem with this one vehicle. That's very common. So we'll be setting the Autonomy Plus at 72 miles an hour. And then some people ask me, well then, Tom, that means the odometer's off and you haven't traveled as far as the vehicle says you have. That's not the case. Because it's by design, the odometer is correct. It's dialed in perfectly. The speedometer is off. The speedometer and the odometer aren't linked perfectly together. The engineers set it up so that the odometer is correct, but that the speedometer is slightly fast. All right, let's get back to the EPA range rating. As I mentioned, this is a R2 Performance with the launch package, and it has the all-terrain tires. The combined EPA range rating for this is 307 miles. The highway EPA range rating is 276 miles, and the city EPA range rating is 338 miles. If this vehicle had the all-season 21-inch tire and wheel package, the combined EPA range rating would be 330 miles. 301 miles is the highway range rating for that setup, and 358 miles is the city EPA range rating. Now, all of these other numbers here are just Rivian estimates, because those versions of the vehicle have not been officially EPA certified. Now we have the 2027 R2 Premium Dual Long Range all-wheel drive with 21-inch wheels, and that's going to come out late 2026. Rivian estimates 330 miles. Then we have that same vehicle, except with the 20-inch all-terrain tires. And for some reason, Rivian also estimates 330 miles. That should be lower, but we'll see when the official range rating comes out. And then we have the Rivian R2 Standard long-range all-wheel drive with the 20-inch wheels, 330 miles again. And then the Rivian R2 Standard long-range all-wheel drive with 19-inch wheels, 330 miles again. Now, all those 330s might just be Rivian giving us an estimate of what it's going to be at, and then they'll slightly tweak them when they actually get range certified. Then we have the R2 Standard long-range rear-wheel drive with 20-inch wheels. That's not going to come out until early 2027, 345 miles. That's going to be the range king. And then the Rivian R2 Standard long-range rear-wheel drive with the 19-inch wheels, 345 estimated EPA combined miles also. And then we have the R2 Standard rear-wheel drive that's supposed to come out mid-2027, and that's going to have an estimated range of at least 275 miles. That's going to have a smaller battery pack. Rivian hasn't yet told us what the capacity of that pack is, but all of the other versions of the R2 have the same size battery pack that this vehicle has. And the usable capacity is 87.9 kilowatt hour, or 88 kilowatt hour. Rivian hasn't disclosed the total capacity. We estimate that to be somewhere around 93 or 94 kilowatt hour. Okay, I'm going to be at 100% any second. It's been on 1 minute for like 5 minutes now. We're going to hop out on the highway. I'll check in when we're at 75% state of charge and 1/4 of the range test is through. Today's video is sponsored by evchargingstations.com. If you drive an electric vehicle or you're planning to, this site is packed with comprehensive charger reviews, detailed DC fast charging graphs, and the latest news from all of the fast charging networks. You'll find real-world testing, easy to understand comparison, and deep dives into how different electric vehicles actually charge. Before you buy an EV charger or plan your next road trip, make sure to bookmark evchargingstations.com and make smarter charging decisions. All right, checking in at 75% state of charge. And we went 72 miles. Now, the Rivian trip meter also tells me that we consumed 24 kilowatt hour. We're averaging 3 miles per kilowatt hour, and we were up way over 3 miles per kilowatt hour for the first let's say half of that quarter, because we're going downhill. But then we started going up, and up a lot more than I even thought. Another cool thing that Rivian has in its display screen is the elevation. It tells you your elevation, and when we started out, we were at about 6,500 feet, and we went down to 4,600 feet. So nearly a 1,900 foot elevation change in this range test, which is going to make it a lot harder on the vehicle than I originally thought. I had mapped it out. I thought it was about 1,500 feet, which in itself is a lot, but now it's almost 2,000 feet. We're going up and down twice. So this is a good test for this vehicle, and that combined with the fact that it has the all-terrain tires. So if you were to have an R2 with the all-season tires and driving on flat ground, you'd go much further than I'm going to go here today. That said, we went 72 miles. If that continues, we're going to get really close to the vehicle's EPA highway range rating, which was 276 miles, which is really what I try to measure the vehicle against when I do these 70-mile-an-hour highway range tests. Not necessarily the combined EPA range rating, but the highway EPA range rating. So, yeah, we're on pace to get pretty close to what the EPA highway range rating was. And there's one last thing I wanted to mention. I didn't mention earlier when I set the vehicles up. I forgot to talk about climate control. I always set the vehicles to just barely make me comfortable, whether it's around 69 or 70 degrees and on the lowest fan setting. That's what I had the Rivian on here today at 70 degrees. I have the heat on actually because it dipped down in the mid 50s overnight. So it was a little chilly in here. And that's another thing that probably is going to rob it of a couple of miles. If it was 75, 80 degrees, that would probably squeak out a couple more miles. So this is a good test for this. And it's, you know, I probably will repeat it at some point down the road on flat ground in warmer temperatures, and I bet I'll go 20 or 30 miles farther than I go here today. But look, we drive in all temperatures and in all type of terrain, so it's good to have as many different range tests as you can out there. I never say that my range test is what you should live by, because that's just what the vehicle got on this day in this course that I was on. It's always good to look at other range tests from other content creators, and then you have a good idea of, well, Tom went this far, and they went this far, and Kyle went this far, and kind of average it all out. So, well, that's where we're at. We're going to keep driving, heading down towards Trinidad, and we'll check back in when we're halfway through. The sun is up, and we are at 50% state of charge. And what a beautiful sunrise that was. I had to grab my camera and take a quick video clip of it. So, as I expected, in that second leg of the range test, we didn't do as well as the first leg because now we were gaining elevation. In the first leg, we were losing elevation. We were going downhill. And in most of this leg, we climbed. We gained 1,900 feet during this second quarter of the range test. And we only went 58.1 miles compared to the 72.1 miles we went in the first quarter. So now we're sitting at 130.2 miles driven. We used 23 kilowatt hour in that section. We used 24 in the first, and we are sitting at a consumption rate of 2.79 miles per kilowatt hour. So as I expected, that was not going to be a good leg, but this third leg should be better. We're actually just went down a little, but now we're in a climb again. After this climb, I'm pretty sure we have a pretty long, prolonged period where we're going to be going downhill. So I would imagine we should be able to get the consumption rate up close to 3 by the end of this third quarter of the range test, but we'll see. There's one more thing I want to mention. I had noticed as we were making the climb, the wind noise started to pick up in the truck, so I checked out my wind app, and I was right. It was at 18 miles an hour, and it was nearly a headwind. It was a cross headwind kind of, and that's enough wind to make a difference. You know, I usually, when I do these range tests, I talk about under 10 miles an hour doesn't make too much of a difference, but you know, close to 20 mile an hour headwind, and it lasted for about 15 minutes before it died down. Now we're still at around 10 mile an hour wind now, but that was a lot for a while. So the combination of the wind picking up and doing this nearly 2,000 foot climb really beat up our consumption rate. So that's something you have to consider when we do the final analyzing of the whole range test. This was a tough course. So, all right, well, I'll check back in at 25% state of charge. That'll be the last check-in before the final drive to the charging station. See you then. All right, a little bit of an update. Nothing to do with the range test, actually, but something interesting. When I was driving south for about 15-20 minutes, I smelled strong odor of like a fire, burned wood or something, but it was dark. I really couldn't see. Now that I'm driving back up north and it's daylight, I can see there's smoke everywhere. And I looked it up. It's the Aspen Acres fires. They're actually just to the west of where I'm driving, and the visibility is terrible. And it's a stronger smell now than it was when I drove through at night, for sure. I even got an alert that it's possible the road might be closed. So right now it's not, but that would suck for the range test and for me making my flight home in a few hours. But that's nothing compared to what the people must be going through that live in this area. It's bad. It's thick. The visibility is terrible, and man, you could really smell it. I mean, I wouldn't want to live in this area right now. I couldn't stay in this all day. I think in any more than a few 20 minutes or so, I'll get a headache and start coughing. It's really thick and heavy. So anyway, that was just a quick update. I'm still driving between 50% and 25%. I'll see you in a few. All right, I'm in my last check-in before the end of the range test, and the R2 has gone 201 miles on 75% of its battery. So that means in that quarter we went 70.8 miles, and the consumption rate now has gone back up. We're at 2.97 miles per kilowatt hour, almost at the 3.0 we were after the first quarter. As far as kilowatt hour, we used 21 kilowatt hour in that quarter, the least amount of any quarter. So now we're at 68 kilowatt hour consumed. At least that's what the trip gauge is telling us. The R2 is supposed to have only 88 kilowatt hour of usable capacity. So that would mean I've got about 20 left. Autonomy Plus has been great. I've used it the whole time, hands-free, hasn't had any problems, no glitches, no issues, nothing. Now let me get over. I wish it did lane change for you. You've got to kind of guide it into the lane and then it turns back on. It'd be nice if it switched the lane for you just by putting on the blinker like a Super Cruise and Blue Cruise does. I have it timed pretty well with the final stop. The vehicle's telling me I'm going to have about 4% state of charge left. So that's pretty good, getting up to the Walmart where we started. If anything, I'll just loop around and maybe take one more exit and then go back, and that'll probably be enough to deplete the battery. And it looks like we're probably going to be, as I said, right around 250-ish, 250, 255. Not a bad showing. Some people are going to read into it and say, oh, the R2 only went 255 miles. I hope they take the time to watch the video and know that number one, I'm on the all-terrain tires. The course I drove with a nearly 2,000 feet elevation change. We had some strong wind for a while. The wind just died down now. We're down around 5 miles an hour, so we're good. It was just back there at that one point. It lasted for a while, for maybe 20 to 30 minutes, where it was almost 20 miles an hour and coming at us. So that's really, that quarter was a bad quarter for a number of reasons. But this isn't going to be a good quarter either. This last quarter, we're going to probably drop down, I'd imagine, around 2.85 by the time the range test is over. But we'll see. But I know we have to climb some altitude. Let me see where we're at right now. Yeah, so we're at 5,200 feet right now, right at Mile High. And the Walmart charger that we're going to end at is at 6,500 feet. So we've got a good amount of elevation to climb up between now and the end of the range test. So I'll turn the camera back on when we are the last mile or so driving to the charger and talk about my thoughts. All right, so I'm on that final drive. I can practically see the Walmart from here. I'm getting off at the exit here, North Academy Boulevard. We are at 1% state of charge, and it says 4 miles remaining. I'm not going to drain this down to zero and take a chance of running out. This is not my vehicle. It's not a press car. Brian, a friend of mine, was kind enough to let me take his brand new R2 and do charge recordings, 0 to 100 charge recordings, 10 to 80, and now this range test. So I have to have respect for that and not really try to abuse it. So we're not going to take it to zero. Still at 1%. It actually might hit zero by the time we get there, because we are just a little bit away. I think we're less than a mile away at this point, but the Walmart is right up here. I can see it. So we are not going to hit the EPA combined range rating of 307 miles. We're not going to hit the EPA highway range rating of 276 miles. But given the fact that this was a very challenging course, I'm actually looking at the elevation change on the screen, and once we get to the charger, I'll take a picture of it for you, was more than 2,000 feet of elevation change twice, going down to Trinidad and back, with winds of almost 20 miles an hour for a while, and then it stayed at around 10, 11 miles an hour for a while, and having these all-terrain tires on. Well, that's factored in with the lower EPA range rating. The all-season tires would have a 330-mile EPA range rating. All things considered, I think it did very well. Let me take a look at the consumption rate. I haven't looked at that in a little bit. So we are still at 2.97. I noticed it was going down for a little while, but then it started to creep up again as we got closer, and it leveled off. One of the things that I'll say is that it's gotten warmer. It's 70 degrees now. So it's like 16 or 17 degrees warmer than it was earlier overnight. And that makes a big difference. I mean, I took my sweatshirt off because I was getting hot in here, and that's good for range. So I'm surprised the consumption rate didn't go down more than it did. I thought it was going to really be around 2.85 or something like that at the end, but it looks like 2.97 is going to be the final. Let me go back to this screen here. Actually, this is where I have to turn, right here. Let me come over. Yeah, that's the Walmart right there. And yeah, still at 1%. We haven't ticked down to zero, but now it's saying 3 miles remaining. So I'll take a look at it and take a picture of it when I pull up to the charger, what the final numbers are going to be. But I'm sure I could go another 3 miles. The throttle response is fine right now. It's a little squishy, but definitely not in like a turtle mode. I was able to maintain the 70 miles an hour the whole time till I just got off the highway. So I think there's some juice in this on a low end buffer here. But as I mentioned, I'm not gonna push that. This isn't my car. I'm gonna get a press car from Rivian at some point in the next couple of months. And I also have one on order. I plan on buying an R2, so I would suspect that State of Charge is going to have a lot of R2 content in this next year besides this. But I know I've said it a couple times, but I really want to thank Brian for loaning me this vehicle. He was just like, yeah, get on a plane, come out. I just got it. It's we love it, but I'll just give you the keys and let you have it for 2 days so you can charge the hell out of it and drive it from 100% down to 0. Not a lot of people would do that. I really appreciate it. Great guy for actually letting me do this with his vehicle. And plus, I'm going to give it back to him really dirty because, as you can imagine, driving all these miles, I hit like 1 million bugs. I feel bad, but at the same time, I wouldn't take it to a car wash, and I can't physically wash it, so I think he's going to get it back dirty. All right, let me pull in here to this Walmart station. Actually, I'm going to spin it around because I want the CCS connector close to the car, and there's a story behind that. This has a native NACS. And the R2 can charge at a little over 600 amps. That's very unusual. Almost no electric vehicles can charge at that. 500 amps is kind of like the max. So Rivian had to do that because they wanted it to be able to charge fast at a high charging rate, and it can accept up to 230 kilowatt for a short period of time, though, in the beginning. But it's a 400 volt battery system. In order to be able to get 230 kilowatt, they needed to charge it over 600 amps. Most auto manufacturers will jump up to an 800 volt battery system so they don't have to push the current higher. But Rivian took it in a different direction, and they kept the 400 volt architecture to keep the price down, which is important on this vehicle. It has to be the affordable mass market Rivian vehicle, and having the 400 volt architecture kept the price down, which was paramount. So they bumped up the amperage way up over 600 amps. Now, these are the ABB chargers here at the Walmart station. Walmart uses the ABB A400 chargers and also the Alpatronic HYC 400s. So both of those can deliver up to 400 kilowatt and 600 amps. With one caveat: the NACS connector on the ABB A400s that Walmart sources has a 375 amp limit. So if I use the NACS connector to charge here now, it's not going to charge as quickly as it can, and I want to get a clean charge recording. So I have to use the CCS with an adapter. I have my adapters here ready to go. And I'm going to do the 0 to 100% charge recording. Actually, I'm going to have to drive it around the parking lot a little bit to get it to 0. But let's finish up this video. I just wanted to talk a little bit about the charging. That video you'll see on State of Charge in a week or so, the full 0 to 100% charging curve. I also have a 10 to 80% video, which you'll see first. The 0 to 100 will be last because there's a lot of charts and graphs and data that we're going to make on that. And it's going to take a little bit longer. All right, so let me take a snapshot of our final numbers here. 259.4 miles. Now it went up to 4 miles remaining with 1% state of charge and 4 miles remaining. Let me take these pictures now before I forget. So 263-ish, 264. I bet you I could go 265 with this. And I also bet if I had this vehicle in New Jersey where the elevation is flat and I don't get too much wind issues like we had here today, I am certain that it would have beat the highway EPA range rating of 276. I probably would have did like 280. Definitely would have been 20 more miles than what we did here, considering this elevation change that we made here. I mean, the elevation change, the highest we went today, and I reset this, was 68.57, and the lowest was 46.64. So that's 2,200 feet of elevation change twice. It still did 260 plus miles and have something left in the tank. So that's a win for me with the R2, I think. Some people might look at it and say, oh, it only went 260 miles. They're not looking at the details if you complain about that, because this, under the right conditions, this would get close to 300 miles, I think, even at 70 miles an hour. And I'm sure it'll do more than that at lower speeds. So now let me just take a look at the energy gauge. Okay, I'm going to take a picture of this too, the energy use gauge, because we'll analyze this. One thing I want to point out, in the beginning, you'll notice that there's a little gap here. And that's because I went to use the restroom. This was like at 4:30 in the morning. And when I came out, I needed to close my eyes for like 15 minutes. So I actually took a 20-minute power nap, powered everything down in the car. The place where I stopped was right off of 25. So I pulled off, shut everything down, came back in, sat down for like 20 minutes and nodded off. And then I was good to go. I wasn't feeling comfortable continuing to drive because I haven't slept now in like 2 days. I flew out here. I've been working all night charging and now driving it. That was a well-spent 20 minutes because it gave me a second wind. But you could see in the energy meter here in the beginning how the vehicle was using a lot less energy. Then as it climbed up to the top of the hill, and then as I started going down the hill, then we went back up the hill and then back down at the end here. The interesting thing is this has our miles per kilowatt hour average at 3.01 for this drive. It has the right distance, 259. That average speed, you can't look at that because when I actually stopped twice. The other time I stopped to go to the bathroom, and I sat in the car mapping out the end of this drive because I knew I was going to end up with like 9% state of charge. So I had to figure out where can I drive, how much farther up 25 can I drive and turn around. So as I was sitting in the car with the HVAC turned off, the average speed just kept going down. It was at 68 was my average really for the whole trip. And that's with the turnarounds and everything. I drove 70 miles an hour the whole time, but it was at 68. But then I saw it drop down to 65 as I was sitting there for like 10 minutes just calculating everything. And this also shows the kilowatt hour added here, which is interesting. 6.4 kilowatt hour added by Regen, and it's saying a total use of 92.6 kilowatt hour here today. But then when I go to the trip gauge, it's saying 88 kilowatt hour was used, which is what Rivian publishes is accessible. So according to the trip gauge, I used everything Rivian gave me, but there's still 1% left in the battery. And I had thought that trip included the Regen. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's only included over here on the energy use screen where they add it, because that says 92.6. But even that math doesn't work out because they're saying it added 6.4. If you add 6.4 on top of 88, it would be 94.4, not 92.6. So I don't know exactly how Rivian calculates this, but they give you a nice breakdown. They show here that to power the wheels, I used 82.5 kilowatt hour. The car used 2.5 kilowatt hour on other accessories and so forth. And then I only used 1.2 kilowatt hour on climate. I really didn't need the climate much at all. I had the heat on for a while, but that was it. And it was on 70 degrees and on the lowest fan setting. I didn't need air conditioning. And honestly, the cabin was kind of comfortable. Other than overnight, I was a little cool. And that's when I cranked the heat up a little bit. But I didn't need much climate. So 260, 263, whatever you want. If you want to add the remaining miles that it shows on the screen here, that's up to you. Rivian R2. I believe this is the first third-party independent highway range test of an R2 anywhere from 100% down to, well, 1%. I haven't seen anybody post anything like this online yet, so I think I might have been the first one to grab one of these and do like a comprehensive range test. There'll be more range tests with the Rivian R2s, I promise you. I'll make sure I get one with the all-season tires and do it in New Jersey on good temperatures, and we'll see if that can come close to its 330-mile EPA combined range rating. All right, well, that's all I have here today. I hope you found this interesting and maybe even a little insightful. If this is your first time here at State of Charge, please hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss any upcoming electric vehicle news and reviews. And as always, thanks for watching.